already ran a fast 10K that we'll talk about. Well, start first here, Gordon, with some fast marathon results. On the men's side, at least, we were waiting. Hey, when's there going to be a sub 204 this fall? We saw one in Milan in the spring, but Berlin passed. Nobody ran that quick. London passed. Deep field still didn't get over under 204. Chicago, I know they had the bad weather, but that one was 1 in 206. And then finally, we get one here with Tamarat Tola in Amsterdam, 203.39. This is a serious time and a serious win here for Tola. Obviously, he's a name that people are familiar with if they've been following major marathoning over the past couple of years, but a big run for him and a big win, smashes the course record out there in Amsterdam. And on the women's side of things, an even more impressive performance. Now, the women have been running fast all fall. We saw that historic London Marathon in terms of depth, but Angela Tanui goes 2:17.57. So we get another 2:18 this fall. That's also a course record, PB by 2 minutes, and moves her to number 10 all time. So marathons are getting rolling here, Gordon. Doesn't even matter if it's a major this fall.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen kind of not the death of majors, but that there are more in non-majors year in and year out. You see what happens. Valencia does a good job of putting on fast times. You see Dubai typically have some good marathons. And now just more and more, it's not just about being at Tokyo, New York, Boston, Chicago, London, Berlin. There's these other marathons that are starting to step up to the plate, and some of the top athletes in the world are able to get there and run fast times. And seeing Tola run 2:03, it's pretty insane.
Mm-hmm. As well as Tanui, right? So now we have had 3 for the women, 3 sub 2:18s on the women's side of things. And you thought, maybe I shouldn't put words in your mouth. I thought, hey, there's so many majors this fall. Everybody's going to go into a major. Because why wouldn't you? All the options are on the table. And instead, even with all the majors available, people are still running in things without the major status, be it, as you mentioned, Amsterdam, or later on, December. Valencia, I think, is going to have the fastest marathon of the year. I think we're going to see something ridiculously quick. They already announced on the and Jeffrey Kemwara are going to be there. So I'm sure the women are going to be stacked with names. Maybe people we don't even know yet who are going to take advantage of that fast course. But what do you think about this moving forward? Do you think this is something that, post-pandemic type scheduling is going to go away, or do you think it's going to increase when the marathon schedule gets back to some sort of normal?
What do you mean by post-pandemic type scheduling?
London staying in the spring, Boston, because I know London next year is going to do fall again, so that's going to be weird because they don't. It's just tough to pull off back-to-back major marathons from an organizational standpoint. So when we get back to the schedule where we have London in the spring, we have Boston in the spring, we have Tokyo up there in the winter, and then in the fall we have Berlin, Chicago, and New York.
Yeah, I mean, I think we will get back to that. I mean, I'm hoping that we keep on saying it to our friends and family, we'll get back to normal one day, right? I assume that the running meet directors have that same intent. Permanent structural change from the pandemic with road racing. I think eventually we'll just get back to the way it was. But I do think the main change that maybe will come of it is that you don't need, like I said, you don't need to be in a major to run fast. You don't need to be in a major to do something impressive. Now, I'm guessing the thing that majors have is, a third place at Amsterdam versus a third place at Boston. You're probably getting more money for getting third at Boston than you are getting for third at Amsterdam, right? So there is going to be still that monetary factor to kind of draw the top talent to the majors. But when you have Tanui run 2:17.58, there's Safan Hassan cheering her on as she crosses the finish line. It's, 2:17s don't grow on trees, and Amsterdam's able to draw one. I did read somewhere that she had visa issues, and actually she was going to run in Boston, but had to run Amsterdam due to that. I guess Amsterdam's very lucky that the visas didn't work out because they were able to get a sub 2:18 runner on their course. Very impressive. And I did see a tweet somewhere that she dedicated her performance to Agnes Tiprop, who passed
Kirop, yep.
away. Kirops, apologies, who passed away a few days ago. So, yeah, it's a very impressive run. I
Mhm.
mean, did,
Yeah, I think
what
well,
do you think that what do you think that I'm stumbling over myself? But every time it's like, all right, if you had to like rank the top marathoners of the world, top three, you would think it'd just be gold, silver, bronze at the Olympics.
mhm.
But obviously, marathons, there's going to be a bunch of major champions. Where do you think Tanui now will be ranked at the end of the year, subjectively, with this 2:17:58 on a non-major course?
She's run enough to where you'd say she's legitimate, right? She's not just a flash in the pan who's going to run one race. Now, the 217 is a big jump up, but this is her third marathon this year. She'd run 220s before. She's been around. So I'll put her in the top 5. I still feel good about Jip Koskai and Jip Cheer, and then I'm still hanging with Bridget Koskai. I know she got beat in London, got beat at the Olympics, but she has a 214 world record. And she also, even though she's getting beat, she's losing to good people. And I think that counts for something in the marathon right now, right? Like the fact that you're jumping, you could easily jump in a race, run a fast time where no one is near you and say, I deserve a high ranking. But, you know, Kosgai is attracting good competition. She's losing to good competition, but she's still attracting good competition. I think you know, Dubai's always been fast and it's never been a major. So and Frankfurt's, produced some fast times and it's never been a major. But I think what we're seeing here is there's so many planned B's and C's and D's now for marathon runners that if stuff comes up with injury or like you're saying here with a visa issue, it doesn't ruin their season in in a way that maybe it would have in the past because there's just so much depth in the marathon right now that they can have a last minute change and they can still get in a very high quality race. And I think that's a little bit of an advantage for this current era that maybe it wasn't there in the past where there's just like, okay, I'm putting out all my eggs into one basket. Something goes wrong. Oh, I'm screwed. And they're also willing to race a lot, right? And that's sort of like a throwback to way back in the day. But they're willing to race more too. So they have multiple opportunities set up, and when you have multiple opportunities set up, that just gives you more chances to succeed. So I think you're seeing that as well too.
Yeah, very impressive. You can watch the replay on FloTrack. Also, the Paris Marathon, the replays on FloTrack from the past weekend. So
Mhm.
lots of marathons on Flow this year, which is pretty fun. So just race play FloTrack.com.
Speaking of marathons, and speaking of Paris, it